GoToMeeting. Online meetings made easy.
Good morning, everybody,
You are the
and
first
welcome
caller and will be
to
placed
the
on hold until
webinar,
the next caller
Billing
arrives.
Medicare PPS Claims. This morning we are going to look at several different options in the system as far as different episode statuses, what they mean, how to get those Medicare claims or those PPS claims to pull over into that pending claim screen and go through the billing process. Now, the first thing that we're going to look at before we actually start is we're going to look at some of our basic reference files and make sure that everything is set up correctly in order for us to bill these Medicare PPS claims electronically through the system. Now, the first option that you'll want to look at under the Reference tab is going to be your submitters. Now, some agencies may have more than one submitters. Usually you have two different submitters, although some agencies could potentially have more. The submitter that we're going to be looking at today is going to be this Medicare submitter. We have it listed here as Vision Share. You guys would actually have your agency's name listed here, and your code usually is set up as Medicare. You just want to go through and make sure that all of this information is set up correctly so that you can bill these Medicare PPS episodes or PPS claims through the Health Trust system electronically. If you need help on setting this up, let our training department know, or under the Help tab and Support, you also have a billing manual that you can open up, and that'll walk you through actually setting up a Medicare submitter through the system. Now, the next option that you want to look at under the Reference tab is going to be the Payer screen. So go to Reference and choose Payers. And the system will show you a list of all of the payers that you have available in the system. Now, we're only going to be looking, for the sake of this webinar, for our Medicare payer and also any other payers that would be billing or you would be billing electronically per those guidelines, those Medicare guidelines, okay? For example, I'm going to click on my Medicare or my Palmetto GBA payer here, and you'll notice as you scroll down you just see the basic payer information. Click on the Claims tab, and the very first option is going to be the main one that we're going to focus on in this page. Okay, now the claim forms or the claim form is going to be very important if you're billing these payers like Medicare and maybe some other ones episodically, okay? You'll notice that you have the different options as far as the type of claim form that they need to be billed on, but since we're billing these episodically, or these payers, we want to make sure that we select PPS as our claim form option. This is going to be for all of your agencies that are billing geriatric patients, Medicare, any other payer that would be billed episodically or processed per those Medicare guidelines. Okay, so even though they're billed on a UB04, we're still selecting PPS, so the system would generate those wraps and final claims. Now, just below that option is going to be the type of bill. Okay, this is the default type of bill. Now, typically, the type of bill for a wrap is usually a 322 or maybe a 332, and the type of bill for a final claim is usually a 329 or a 339. The system should automatically pull the correct type of bill once the claim is created. But if you needed to specify a specific or default type of bill, that's where those would need to be entered here. Otherwise, the system would automatically pull in that correct type of bill depending on what was being billed, either the wrap or the final claim. And it does that because we selected PPS as that claim form. Okay. Make sure also on this claims page that you have your default submitter selected as that Medicare submitter that you had either added into the system or verified that that information was correct. That way the system is going to automatically electronically bill or automatically pull those over to your billing menu so that you can electronically bill those through our system to your payer. Don't forget, after you make any changes to this particular screen, always make sure in the upper right-hand corner that you click Submit to save any of those changes, and then the system will actually take you back out to your payer page. Okay. Now the next option that we're going to look at is we're actually going to look at our report center. Okay, and some helpful reports that you guys may want to run in order to kind of help you find the different episodes depending on the statuses for your claims that you want to bill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go to the Report tab, and then I'm going to choose Report Center. Now I like to default or leave my type over here on the left-hand side to the default as all reports so that I can see everything that I have access to. And then on the right-hand side, the type of report that I'm looking for is going to be called Episodes. So I'm going to scroll down here. Once I find Episodes, I'm going to select that report, and the system is going to load my filter options that I have available. Now up at the top you have your select fields to include, which are going to be your columns that you see across the top of your report. You'll notice that some of these options are not selected. For example, if we were going to run this report so that we could see all of the episodes that maybe needed to be confirmed in order for that final claim to be billed, we would want to make sure that we check off the POC status as well as that order status so that we can pull that information to the report and verify that all of those are in that finalized or confirmed status. Now for the sake of this webinar, I'm also going to choose that admit date and the comments box so you guys can actually see those on the report and you can see all of the boxes and kind of what it looks like. You have your typical filter options just below to filter by the provider or the branch office, maybe a specific patient that you're looking for. You have several other filters here, but the ones that we're going to scroll down to are going to be this episode start date and episode end date. These are going to be really helpful filters for you guys if you're looking to search or run this report for a specific date range that you're looking for. If you have already done all of your billing up until a certain point and you only want to check on episodes that started after a specific day, you're going to use these particular start and end dates so that you can kind of narrow down the information that you're getting. Now since I'm in my test database, I'm actually going to leave these blank for the sake of this training. That way you guys can see a lot of different warnings and things that we have that appear on this report. Now the next filter option just below those date ranges is also going to be another important filter option depending on how you want to run this report. You can actually run this report several different ways to get different information depending on what you're looking for. So before we actually run this report, let's first look at the different episode statuses so that we can actually go over what each of them means so that you can get a better idea of how to utilize this filter option. So the first option that we have is going to be entered. Now episodes that are in an entered status means basically that it's a new episode that does not have that first billable date entered yet. Okay, so it's newly in the system, it doesn't have that first billable date. Now keeping in mind that after an OASIS or Start a Care OASIS visit is done, the system automatically will pre-fill that first billable date into the system for you once that visit passes care validation. Okay, after a recert, you'll actually have to go in and manually enter in that first billable date in that episode screen, and we'll look at the episode screen and where you can enter that in just a few minutes, but you'll need to actually key that in after the resert because we're not actually sure when that first billable date might actually take place after that resert in that new episode. So most of the episodes that you're going to see in this entered status are episodes that maybe are following a resert visit, so no first billable date has been entered, so they're still in that entered status. Or it may be an episode that you manually have entered into the system and no first billable date has been keyed in yet. Now, we never recommend manually keying in your own episode. The system automatically adds in those episodes as soon as those visits, those either initial evaluations or resert visits, as soon as those are passed through the care validation screen. You'll kind of see how that comes into play and why we don't recommend that a little bit later when we're talking about why maybe we don't see wraps or final claims actually showing up in our billing menu. But for right now, just know what that entered status means. The next status that we see is our ready status. Now what this means is that this particular episode is in a ready status. It's ready to have the wrap billed. Okay, so a first billable date has been entered and that start of care visit or that resert visit is done and completed and in a confirmed status, and it's already passed that care validation process. The next status that we see is going to be our wrap status. Now, episodes that are in a wrap status mean basically that the wrap has already been billed. Okay? Not only does it mean that the wrap has been billed, but it also means that there are still outstanding charges left in that episode or outstanding orders or plans of care that have not been confirmed, so it's not yet ready to have that final claim billed. The next status that we see is our confirmed status. Now when episodes go into a confirmed status, this needs to be done manually. Okay, so episodes are in a wrap status because they still have outstanding orders. The wrap has been billed, but the final claim is not ready to be billed. You would need to go in either as a billing team member or if you have someone else as a part of your agency that goes in and confirms those episodes for billing purposes, that would go in and look at those different charges within that episode, look at the orders, and make sure that everything is in a confirmed state, and then they would actually verify that episode or confirm it, and that's going to place it in this confirmed status. And what that'll do is that'll send that episode or that final claim over to your potential claim screen so that you can actually bill it. The FC status simply means that the final claim has already been billed. Your not PPS status is going to be used for episodes for payers that are not being billed episodically. They're not being billed per those Medicare guidelines. And then your void status is going to be episodes that basically have been voided. So let's run this report as an example, and let's say that we want to see all of our episodes that maybe we want to bill the final claims for. Okay? So we want to make sure, again, at the very top that we select the POC status as well as the order status. Scroll down. Remember, you can use those episode start and end dates. And then the episode status, we're going to choose wrap. Remember, because wrap is the status that those episodes are in when they still may have outstanding orders that need to be confirmed before the final claim can be billed. Okay, so if we're looking for those orders that we want to bill the final claim on, but we can't yet, we want to choose the wrap status. And then I'm just going to click submit. Okay. Up at the very top, you can see it gives us that episode number and the provider or branch location, and also the patient's name and MR number. We'll be able to see that patient's insurance number, their payer, the from and through dates of that episode, and also the type of the episode. After the webinar this afternoon, we'll be posting some different types and helpful hints for you guys to use as a reference as far as the types of episodes to choose and also the different statuses. You'll also be able to see the days since the EOE, or the end of episode. Hopefully you guys don't have any that are 1,325 days past the end of episode. Otherwise, you'll notice the next column is a warning column, and the system is telling you that since it's been a little bit more than 60 days since the end of that episode, that your wrap payment has probably been recouped. So make sure that you're running this report so that you guys can stay on top of those. And again, as you scroll through here, you'll notice that the system is notifying you of any additional warnings or things that we can help you with. For example, if we scroll down here, this is 16 days, it looks like, out of the end of episode. And so it's letting us know that it's time to confirm the episode pending validation. Okay. Over to the right-hand side, you'll be able to see that plan of care and order status column. And if you'll notice, if we scroll back down to that one that says it's telling us that it's time to confirm that episode, our plan of care and our orders are still out to the physician. So we would need to go and check and see maybe what's holding those up, possibly resend them to the physician, or just verify that we do actually have them back with a signature and maybe someone just didn't check them in. But definitely check on those because you are 16 days outside of the episode and you want to make sure that it doesn't get to that point where it's after 60 days and you run the risk of having that wrap payment recouped. The next column, you'll also be able to see that admit date of the patient and then also the comments box to the very right-hand side. Okay, so I'm going to close this episodes report. Now again, you can filter the episode status by whatever you would like to, depending on what you're looking for. And then let's actually take a look at the episode screen now. So let's take a look at the page where we can actually confirm those episodes so that we can bill a final claim, or also the page that we can enter in that first billable date after a research visit has been done. Now there are two different ways that you can actually access that episode page from throughout the system. The first option would be to go to the PPS tab and then select episodes. This will give you a list of all of the episodes that you have in the system. Or you can go into the patient menu, select your patient, and then go to the episode tab to pull up that episode for that particular patient. Clicking on that underlined from date is going to take you into the edit episode screen that we're going to look at in just a few minutes. I'm actually going to access my episodes from the PPS and episodes tab. That way I can view all of them. I could even use my advanced search to search for a particular type or maybe a particular status. And remember, I've already run my episodes report, so I can use that as a tool as I'm going through and checking these episodes, making sure that I get all of the ones that were on my episode report and that we don't happen to overlook any of those. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to choose an episode here. So for example, here's one that is in an entered status. So you'll notice when I click on that, there's no first billable date entered. Okay, it's still in an entered status. I'm assuming this was after a resumption or a research visit, so the system did not automatically pre-fill that first billable date. So I can use this View Charges button next to the status to actually view a list of those visits and find that first billable date that I would need to actually enter in. Okay, I can click on the back arrow button, enter in that first billable date, And when I click anywhere else on the screen, you'll notice that it automatically changes that status to a ready status. All I need to do now is click Submit, and that's going to save that status for me. Okay. Now let's say I have one that's in a wrap status. Okay, so remember the wrap has already been billed. You'll notice that next to the status, when I select that episode, I now have a Confirm button instead of a View Charges button. Now what this Confirm button is allowing me to do is when I click on it, it's giving me the same list that that View Charges button did, but it's actually allowing me to look and make sure that everything is in a confirmed status, which in this case it's not, and also showing me my plan of care status and the status of any outstanding orders, or whether or not I even have any orders in the system. So remember, those will all need to be in a confirmed state before you can actually verify this episode or confirm it so that you can bill the final claim. Let's see if I can find one maybe that has everything confirmed. And nope, let me see if I can just change manually some of these statuses so that you guys can see that verify button. Okay. Typically you would never go in and manually change the status of these just so you could get that final claim in your billing menu. You definitely want to follow the steps or the flow of the system so that you make sure that you do everything correctly and it doesn't cause you any problems later down the line. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on the Confirm button, and you'll notice that I have all of these visits confirmed. My plan of care status is confirmed, and I don't actually have any orders in the system, so I don't have to worry about those being confirmed. And then you'll notice that now I have my Verify Episode button down here at the bottom. You do also have an underlined frequency tab that'll just pull up your episode schedule, and it'll have your orders and frequency at the bottom right-hand corner so you can verify that frequency. And after you've verified that frequency, you can just change that option to yes to the right-hand side. It isn't necessarily something that's going to affect your billing or prevent you from being able to bill that episode, but it is a good way to double check that frequency from a billing standpoint and make sure that they are matching. Click on Verify Episode, and you'll notice that that changes my status from a wrap status to ready, or I'm sorry, to confirmed. And then all I need to do is click Submit to save it, and then that again will default me back out to my episode screen. Now, it does keep trying to filter by the last patient that I was working with in the patient menu, so I just keep clicking on the All Filter option so it'll refresh that screen. Okay. Now, there's one other thing that you may have actually noticed in this screen that we haven't talked about yet, and that's going to be the type of episode. There are several different options here that you'll look at. I'm going to actually include this afternoon when we post the webinar video, I'm going to actually include what these different types mean and how you would use them when you're actually billing those PPS episodes or those PPS claims. One thing to keep in mind is if it is a LUPA or an outlier episode, the system does recognize those and it will actually change these accordingly. You'll see that change kind of take place in the pending claim screen. I think I have one to actually show you once we look at that billing screen. Now, if it is a PEP episode, you will have to manually change that, or if it's an SCIC, you will have to change that. And if you have any questions about those that you can't find an answer to in the materials that we provide this afternoon, definitely give our training department a call and let us know. Again, click Submit to save any of those changes that you've made here. If not, we're actually going to go right over to the Billing tab. Okay. Now the first tab that we're going to look at in this Billing tab is going to be View Potential Claims. It's kind of the first step in the actual billing process. After you've already gone through, you've run your reports, you've kind of verified that everything is ready to go, and you're ready to bill at this point. You immediately are taken into a filter page. We don't automatically just load all of the claims into this screen, so if you have hundreds or thousands of claims that are showing up here, it takes just a few minutes for it to load versus maybe having to wait a little bit longer if we just automatically loaded them. So we'll always take you to this filter page so it filters these very quickly. I'm just going to run mine wide open since I know I don't have a lot of claims that are showing up here, but you can filter by your branch office or by a specific patient or payer. Now once I filter, you'll have several tabs that show up at the top. The ones we're going to look at today are going to be PPS and then also Not Ready. Now under the PPS tab, you'll notice that it breaks it into the wraps and the final claims, and it'll total the number of claims out to the right-hand side. You can click on those gray bars to actually pull up the claims that are ready to be billed. And under the Not Ready tab, it works the same way. Just click on the gray bars, and that'll open up the claims that are not ready to be billed in either the final claims or the wrap status. Okay. If you would like to actually fix these particular episodes, you can click on the magnifying glass to the left-hand side. For example, the wrap can't be billed because the episode is in an entered status. Well, we know that in order to bill that wrap, we have to have that start of care or that recert visit in a confirmed status, and we also have to have a first billable date in. So we can click on View Charges, get that first billable date. Oops, and I closed out all my windows on accident. And then we can actually manually enter in that first billable date from this screen. Let's enter in this, for example. Changes it to a ready status. We're going to click Submit to save it. And I need to choose a date within the episode, and it looks like I selected the wrong year. Okay, and I'm going to click Submit, and then if I were to refresh this page, I would actually see this particular wrap for Amber Hammond show up under my PPS and wrap tab. You can do the same thing with those final claims. And once you're ready to bill, just check the check boxes next to the ones that you want to bill. Click Submit in the upper right-hand corner. That's going to actually create your pending claims. You'll notice that it's recognizing those LUPAs or those outliers also once it moves over into this pending claim screen. And out to the right-hand side of each of these, it'll show you any warnings, error messages, or it'll let you know if the claim validation was successful, meaning that it's ready to immediately bill. Now, if it has an error message, that's actually going to be outlined in red like we see here. If it has nothing but warnings, it'll be outlined in just solid yellow. And if the claim validation was successful, it will outline it in a bright green color so you can easily see it. Now, anything with an error or a warning, you actually will not have a little checkbox to the left-hand side because you'll need to review that information before you actually bill it. Especially the error messages, you can still bill a claim with a warning. The error messages will need to be corrected before the system will allow you to actually bill that claim. Over to the right-hand side, if you need to make corrections, you have a little first aid kit. You also have a little guy with a magnifying glass. That'll just pull up a PDF of that actual claim so that you could review it. and then you have a red X to the right-hand side. Now when you utilize this little first aid kit to actually make corrections to a claim, this is just simply updating this one claim. So if it's something that needs to be corrected at the patient level, maybe the payer level, or the provider level, I would recommend clicking on the red X. That's going to delete this pending claim and bring it to the beginning of that billing process. That way you could then go into the patient menu, make any corrections that you may need to make, and then just kind of go through that potential claim screen and recreate this claim. If you wanted to just update this one particular claim, clicking on the first aid kit will allow you to do that from this Edit Pending Claim screen. Just make sure that you click Submit before you confirm to save all of those changes. Now you may need to actually refresh your page in order to see these warnings and error messages disappear. You can either choose right-click and refresh, or you can just go back up to the Billing tab and View Pending Claims screen in order to refresh all of those warnings that you may have corrected. You have different filter options going across the top of your screen. The No Errors button is going to show you only the claims that don't have any errors and are ready to be billed. The Warnings button is going to allow you to view all of the claims that have a warning, but they will still allow you to bill. It may not be something that may necessarily reject that claim. Your errors are going to show you all of the ones that have errors that you can't actually bill because you need to go in and correct those error messages. You also have your provider option here, so if you have several branch offices, you can filter by that particular branch. And then you have a Submit button to actually apply that provider filter. If you want to use the advanced option so you can filter by a patient or a payer, just simply click on the advanced link and then click on Submit, and that'll apply those filters to that particular page. The Confirm Claims button, if you do have a check mark or a checkbox here that you can check next to these claims, clicking on Confirm will actually confirm all of those claims that you have that checkbox checked. Clicking on Delete Claims will allow you to delete the pending claims that are there that have that checkbox checked. Your Check All option is going to allow you to check or uncheck all of those boxes that will show up here on the left-hand side once you no longer have any more error messages. Okay. Now once you've actually billed, let me see if I can correct an error message real quick to see if we can bill one. Okay. All right. I'm just going to manually confirm this one. Let me see, Donald Duck. Let me go in and check for Mr. Duck's orders. Showing there's 2 here that are in an unconfirmed status, so I'm just going to manually change these so that we can see. Donald Duck. Order status is confirmed. And let's just check to see if Mr. Duck has a plan of care. And he does, and it is in a confirmed status. Okay, so I'm going to go back to billing and view pending claims. And what I'm going to do is I am going to delete that claim. And it looks like I deleted it before I left this screen. So I'm going to go back into View Potential Claims. I'm going to find Mr. Donald Duck. And I guess I actually confirmed the claim. Bear with me just a minute. Going to void out my claim since I did actually confirm it. Okay, so after I've verified basically that everything is confirmed, or after I've made those corrections, I should be able to see Mr. Donald Duck showing up here. And he is still not showing up, so there must be some other things that I need to correct. We're actually going to look at that in just a minute on how you can actually locate a claim that for some reason does not want to show up in the potential claim screen, like our Donald Duck claim. So going back to the pending claims screen, if you actually had any pending claims in here that were ready to be billed, once you clicked on Confirm Claims, that's going to actually show you basically a confirmation sheet letting you know that those claims were electronically transmitted to your payer, and it'll also tell you that patient's name as well as the amount that was transmitted. Now you may notice that on your wraps that show up in here, let me just open one up real quick. And I'm going to go to the charges screen. You'll notice that the quantity and the charge amount is 0. Okay, wrap claims are going to be billed at the beginning of the episode, and a wrap claim typically will not have any charges on the claim. The actual payment amount is based on the HIPS code that's generated on that OASIS. So on that Start of Care OASIS, or on that Recert OASIS that started that episode, that HIPS code is actually what generates that payment. Okay, so don't worry if you see that 0 amount here. You're not going to see that dollar amount. Okay, occasionally or on your LUPAs you may see that negative amount here just because of what that episode payment was estimated to be, and then it was cut short and it ended up being a LUPA episode, so you may see that negative amount there. The final claim is going to show up, and basically all of the confirmed charges in that episode are going to be billed and show up on that final claim. But when you're looking at your final claims, and I don't think I have one because the only final claim that I had ended up being a LUPA. But when you're looking at those final claims, the actual claim billed amount is not going to be the actual total amount of those charges, because the billed amount, remember, is going to be based off of the HIPS code and the amount of therapy visits that were performed that episode. Okay, so if you have any questions about that, definitely let us know so that we can get those answered. And scrolling back up, now let's look at a couple of different windows. Let's say if maybe your patient's claims or episodes are not actually showing up in this menu. So you're having trouble finding the patient that you're looking for. Maybe it's our Donald Duck patient like I was looking for. One thing that you want to make sure when you're actually looking for your patients in these billing menus, if you're billing a wrap, remember that that Start of Care or that Recert visit must be in a confirmed status. So you can go into either the Charges menu or the Schedule and look for that Start of Care or Recert visit. Make sure that it's in a confirmed status. Remember, you can also view that by going into the PPS and episodes. You can find that episode for that particular patient, and then just make sure that it's in that correct status, and make sure you can click on View Charges and make sure that all of those visits are confirmed. Okay, Now remember, everything needs to be in the correct status. So if you're trying to bill a final claim, it actually needs to be in a confirmed status, which looks like that may be my problem with our Donald Duck claim. So make sure that those are all in the correct status depending on what you're wanting to bill. Again, most of the time, except for when you're confirming that episode to bill the final claim, the system should automatically kind of transition your episodes into the correct status. Okay. You also want to make sure that if you have a wrap that's not showing up in that View Pending Claim screen, make sure that the first billable date has been entered. Remember, for your start of care visits, the system automatically enters that in. For your recert visits, you will need to manually have your staff go in and key in that first billable date, because we don't necessarily know when that date will be. Okay. Now, if you're looking for your final claim and your final claim isn't actually showing up in that potential claim screen, remember, make sure that all of the scheduled visits that are in that episode are in a finalized and confirmed status. It could be confirmed, it could be a revenue adjustment status or an uncollectible status, or it could even be a missed visit status. Anything that is in a scheduled or an unconfirmed status will prevent your final claim from being ready to bill and showing up in that potential claim screen. Make sure that when you are ready to bill those final claims that you do have one of your billing team members going in and actually confirming that episode and verifying that everything is in that confirmed finalized status. And then that should cause all of your final claims to show up in that screen. Now, if you're still having trouble and you're still unable to see those final claims and those wraps show up in your potential claim screen, you can also verify that the correct episode is attached to not only the plan of care but also the OASIS. Remember, it's pulling some of that payment information off of that OASIS and those codes that were calculated. So you want to make sure that the correct episode is attached to the OASIS and the plan of care. Now, this is where kind of creating your own episodes can get agencies into a pickle sometimes. The system does automatically generate those episodes for you. So if you're going in and you're manually creating those episodes, you have the potential to maybe add in a duplicate one. You could add in one and accidentally add in incorrect dates, and that would result in you needing to actually void out one of those episodes. Well, once the visit has been passed, once maybe that start of care or that recert visit has been passed through care validation, the system actually attaches that episode to the plan of care and also the OASIS. So if that's the incorrect episode, it's not going to pull over that information to that billing and view potential claims screen if basically that order, that plan of care, or that OASIS is attached to a voided episode. So you want to make sure that you always have the correct episode attached. If you're not sure whether it's the correct episode or not, you can go into PPS and OASIS. You can locate that OASIS and click on it, and then you can reselect the episode by using that magnifying glass, selecting that correct episode, and then going to the Validate page and clicking Submit to save it. Now, you also can go into that Order tab and choose Plan of Care and actually attach the correct episode in the plan of care as well. Just keep in mind that if you voided the original episode that plan of care was attached to, you may need to unsign the episode or unsign the plan of care in order to correct this episode mistake, or in order to attach the correct episode to that particular plan of care. And that will also help you guys get those claims into that pending or potential claim screen for you to bill. So if you have any questions about those, definitely let us know. Now, after you've billed your claims, you do have our Billing and View Responses tab. You'll be able to see from this page your rejected claims, your accepted claims, and also your payment files. If you're set up and Medicare has been notified that you would like to receive your payment files electronically, every time we poll their inbox for responses to your claims that you've billed, we'll also poll for those payment files, and we'll give you an import option to the right-hand side, allowing you to import that check electronically into our system. Additional webinars and things will be covered about the actual collections process, but just so you guys know where that option is and how you can get set up for that. You'll also be able to see those accepted claims, and you can archive those by clicking on the little floppy disk over to the right-hand side. Sometimes people say it looks like a little scale. It is a little floppy disk so that you can save those archived files so that you can access them later. Excuse me. And back on the rejected claim screen, you have your same little floppy disk. You have a magnifying glass to view your response file, and then you have a little first aid kit. So when you see that that was actually rejected, you can click on the little first aid kit. That'll open up your edit claim screen, and you can make any changes that you may need to. Now, when we started the training, we talked about that type of bill. And so if you needed to actually make corrections to a final claim that's already been billed, you may need to change that type of bill that shows up here to a 327 before you retransmit it. But once you hit submit and save that information, that type of bill change along with any changes that you've made, you can go directly into other options and click on retransmit electronic claim. That will actually retransmit it electronically back to your payer, and then you can close those windows and click on the little floppy disk to archive that file. Any claim that's highlighted in yellow is going to be a claim that has been voided since being billed. And you can also retransmit those claims by going to the Billing and Claims tab, locating your claim that you want to retransmit, and again making any changes you may need to, maybe changing that type of bill, clicking submit to save, and then going to your other options and selecting that retransmit electronic claim option. Now, if you need any help actually setting up any of your payers or submitters in the system, under the Help and Support page and under Manuals on the left-hand side, we do have a billing manual that will help kind of walk you through that initial setup so that you can verify that everything is entered in correctly before you actually start billing those Medicare or PPS claims through our system. And remember, if you have questions about anything, just give our training department a call, and keep an eye out for the alert later today that's going to have this webinar recording, and we'll also have some helpful hints and some answers to y'all's questions that I see have come in on the right-hand side of my screen. So keep an eye out for that, and thank you guys for watching.